Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope you've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Today, I'll be discussing the solved murder of Eddie Polec. This is one of those cases where it does pretty much hit close to home. For those of you who don't know, I live around the Philadelphia area, and I remember hearing about this case when I was in high school. Since the high school I attended has a huge connection with this case. Eddie's death was gruesome and senseless, and it's such a shame that his life was taken so early for literally nothing. Now, I encourage you all to do your own research with this case and not to just look at my video for all of the information. Here we go. Eddie Polec was born on January 21st, 1978 to parents John and Kathy Polec. Eddie would also have a brother and a sister. So his sister's name was Christy and his brother's name was Billy. Eddie was described as someone who was fun-loving, loved bringing joy to others, athletic, talkative, always smiling, nice, generous. He was empathetic. He was known to have a soft spot for those who struggled and was always willing to help. He was a boy who was described as someone who was full of love. He lived for the moment, and he had dreams of someday after high school going to cooking school. So in 1994, Eddie is 16 years old at this point. Specifically on November 11th of 1994, this is a Friday, so the weekend is pretty much here. Eddie planned on spending time with his younger brother Billy and a few friends at the neighborhood park. Before I discuss the details of what happened on November 11th, I'd like to go ahead and just make this just seem a bit more clear to all who are very unfamiliar with this case. So here's a little backstory. Earlier that month, there was this girl named Diane, and she was hanging out with friends. So Diane and these friends were actually students from Abington, and Abington is the school that I went to. Diane and her friends from Abington High School went to another neighborhood around the Philadelphia area, which is Fox Chase to be specific. And, from what I've experienced with, going to Fox Chase and everything, it's a pretty safe area to be in. And Diane and her friends went to McDonald's. While Diane and her friends are at the McDonald's parking lot, they don't really expect anything to really happen. Like, they don't really expect anything crazy to happen. But I don't know, I'm not 100% sure if words were exchanged, but what did end up happening for certain was that soda was thrown at her car while she was inside. So I would assume that maybe the window was, rolled down, because for certain, while the soda was thrown at the car, it ended up ruining her pants. And her friends, who were inside the car with her, were also soaked with the soda. After this strange event occurred, somehow it ended up spiraling into this pretty crazy rumor. And when this rumor went around, it exploded. And you know what? From my experience as an Abington student, when there were rumors, it spread like a wildfire. And this is no different. So this rumor exploded about Diane being assaulted by these guys from Fox Chase. And the thing about this is that the students who were at Abington around this time remember her spreading those rumors herself. After Eddie's death, Diane was interviewed by police, and those rumors of assaults were brought up during this, interrogation, and she denied ever spreading those rumors. She only told the police about the Fox Chase people spitting at her and throwing the soda at her car. As word got out about the rumor, though, friends of Diane's got word of this and were furious to hear about what supposedly happened. Here's my question, though. If Diane was truly assaulted, like she claimed, or like it was claimed, since she claims that she didn't say anything, if she was truly assaulted, then why didn't she just go to the police instead of waiting for the police to get to her after the tragic turn of events that would occur later on? Now let's get back on track. Let's go ahead and fast forward from this soda incident back to November 11th of 1994. Now Eddie and his brother Billy planned on hanging out at the park with friends. Before going to the park, Billy was at a McDonald's while Eddie was at the nearby park. Now mind you, this is the same McDonald's where Diane had the run-in with those Fox Chase kids. So Billy, he noticed Diane's vehicle, and he and Diane didn't. I'm pretty sure that he and Diane didn't know each other, but he noticed her vehicle, and he noticed that the people who were inside the car were recklessly driving around the parking lot, and it looked like they were about to literally hit the kids in the parking lot, especially targeting those who lived in the Fox Chase area. Now, Billy, he wanted no smoke, like he wanted no part of this at all. So his plan was to leave this parking lot and go back to the park where his brother Eddie was. Now, another car pulls up in front of him, blocking his way. Now, the driver threatened to beat up the Fox Chase teens who were at the park. Overall, Diane's friends from Abington wanted revenge. Here's the thing about Abington. When I was a student there, the students were already messy in my eyes. Like, I kid you not, it would take me like a whole docu-series, a whole deep dive docu-series to discuss my time as an Abington student because so much happened there. Like, honestly, I really thought that my generation at Abington was a mess, but when I heard about how extra these Abington kids were acting in the 90s, I realized that wasn't the case. Well, the kids that, while I was at Abington, the students were messy, but it just wasn't as messy as I, thought they were compared to these kids in Abington in the 90s. Later that night, the Abington teens arrived at the park with baseball bats. Here's the thing, when you try to hurt someone with a baseball bat, it proves that you are trying to cause a lot of damage to that person. From personal experience, I know how it's like to get hit by a baseball bat, but that was like only an accident. And getting hit by a baseball bat is definitely not fun, especially when you are hit with a baseball bat, to the head. So I can't even begin to imagine what sort of demon possesses someone to hit another person with a baseball bat with full force. Seeing the bats, the kids at Fox Chase began to run for their lives. Sadly, Eddie was one of those kids who were around, so he and Billy had to split up. And, he wasn't, splitting up just because he was trying to go ahead and save himself. Eddie wanted to make sure that his younger brother was safe. So they split up while the Abington teens were sort of swinging bats at other kids. Eddie, while split up from his friends and younger brother, approached the St. Cecilia's Roman Catholic Church, which he was pretty familiar with, where he served as an altar boy. While at this Roman Catholic building, where he usually felt safe, the Abington teens unfortunately caught up with him. I might butcher their names, but I couldn't care less. So these were the names that I gathered. The names of these people who came after Eddie were Anthony Renzi, Nick Pinero, Dewan Alexander, Carlo Johnson, Boo Cathavong, and Kevin Convey. So all 6 of these guys approached Eddie with their bats and savagely, senselessly beat him to the point where he became bloody and unconscious, basically leaving him on the steps of St. Cecilia's to die. Later on, when his parents got word from one of the priests who, pretty much was a priest at St. Cecilia's, he explained to his parents how they needed to arrive at the Catholic building. And, they didn't hear the full details at first. They just heard that Eddie was involved with an incident. So they arrived there, again, not really having much information. As soon as they arrived and they saw the cop cars, Eddie's parents would soon get the news that no parent would ever want to hear, and they heard everything about the attack. The thing about Eddie, even though he was left for dead, from what I do understand, he was still alive, but literally barely alive when they when those attackers just left him on those Roman Catholic church steps. So he was rushed to the hospital where he was placed on life support. But the following day, unfortunately, Eddie was pulled off of life support and passed away, leaving his loved ones devastated. So, of course, there is a funeral for Eddie, but from what I heard, thousands of people attended Eddie's funeral, not only showing how affected the community was after learning about his murder, but it also just goes to show how loved he was by so many people, leaving this humongous hole in all of their lives. I don't know if you're thinking this, but you might be thinking, did anyone see all this chaos? Did nobody call 911? The thing is that someone did call 911. Plenty of people, including a female friend whose name was Teresa, called 911. And the sad thing about Teresa was that she was a friend of Eddie's and she found him. Plenty of people were calling 911 to get the police over there to go ahead and stop the chaos that was happening. But the 911 operators, for some odd reason, took their precious time notifying the police. From what I've gathered, it literally took them 40 minutes to get the police to arrive. Thankfully, those dispatchers eventually got fired because they clearly shouldn't have had that profession in the first place. Police soon received information from one of the Abington teens who were friends with Eddie's attackers, since he had no choice to tell the police everything he knew. So the police, they gather all this information and arrest and charge those who literally murdered Eddie. These guys, well, I wouldn't even say guys, these monsters are charged for Eddie's murder. So eventually there is a trial. Now, the thing about the trial, according to his parents, those monsters didn't even seem remorseful. The thing is that they were laughing and joking while, the jury wasn't around. But here's the thing. You take somebody's life, you take somebody's baby away from them, you take somebody's brother away from them, you take somebody's friend away from them, I don't know, and you are on trial for their murder. The least you would think, the most, I don't know, not the least, maybe not, but the thing is that you would think that those who are on trial for somebody's death, you would think that the last thing on their mind would to be laughing and joking while their lives are hanging in the balance. But no, they just think that I guess there was a joke and they just couldn't contain their laughter. I just can't grasp how unfeeling you can be after taking somebody's life and you think that there is an appropriate time to be laughing and joking while the family could see you. You're laughing and joking while you are on trial for taking a young person's life. I can't comprehend it. Now, here is the outcome of this trial. So all 6 of those Abington monsters that I mentioned were all convicted. But sadly, none of them served life sentences, which I believe they should have served life sentences. I do not care. They were 16, 17, or maybe, yeah, they were probably 16 and 17 when they killed Eddie. Honestly, I had said this in videos before. I don't care how old you are. If you intentionally take the life of somebody, you should definitely be in prison. Now, the thing is that, from what I've gathered, the jury didn't believe that these 6 intended to kill Eddie. When you bring in baseball bats and hit somebody repeatedly with those baseball bats, how in the world do you not think that you could take this person's life by constantly whacking them with a baseball bat. Like, it make sense. Like, somebody needs to explain it to me. Like, make it make sense. Because overall, their actions ended up taking somebody else's life. They should have all received life sentences. From what I was personally told, Eddie's family was supposed to be notified when they were released, but they weren't, which is literally a slap in the face to Eddie's family. If Eddie were alive today, he would be 44 years old. He would probably have an amazing career and have been married with kids of his own. Unfortunately, one stupid incident, which he had nothing to do with, took all of that from him. Those monsters robbed so many people. They robbed so many people of spending more precious time with him. In his short life, Eddie made such a huge impact, and it's such a shame that his life was cut short over stupid teenage drama. I do pray for Eddie's loved ones. My prayer is that God would comfort them and that they would seek him, as they still miss Eddie to this day. I thank you all for taking the time in your day to watch this video. If you did like this video, please feel free to hit the like button. If you have any thoughts on this case at all, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about the next video. If there's a certain true crime case that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and let me know. I will see y'all for next True Crime Tuesdays, and I will talk to y'all later.